Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
I mean, you just can't make this shit up, can you? Sorry to everyone joining us, whether you be listening or watching. You've come into me and Drew giggling away there. Basically, we've been prepping, getting ready, finally got to set to record, and you may not be able to hear it now because it's quieting down a bit, and we'll do our best to sort it in the edit as well. I say me. Drew doesn't know what end of a mouse to hold. But anyway, then bloody roadworks or some kind of drilling started, and then you just literally cannot make it up.
That was hysterical. I mean, that was at the countdown moment. 3, 2. What the heck is that?
Yeah, like, genius. World War III had opened up outside my window. But anyway, we're here now. It's calmed down. Hopefully, none of you can hear what we're laughing at. And yeah, hello, mate. How you doing? Good to see you.
All right, I'm just gonna have a slurp of the old coffee.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Drewling Samantics, where chaos has ensued already.
Anything could happen. No, I'm good, my friend. I'm very good. How's yourself?
Yeah,
all been dandy.
Lots going on, exciting stuff. Just cogs turning and things progressing and life happening, mate. I think is the way to sort of surmise at this.
Whoa, that was very philosophical. I like that.
I know. I'm trying to make up for the fact that we came in and a bloody drill was at the start of the show. So
disorganised pile of rubbish. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's my life. Disorganised pile of rubbish. No, it's not true. I've got a couple of things. A little bit of news that I can't mention just yet, but I'm hoping I will be able to. That's a little bit cryptic, but there's a little bit of good news. But one of those things you say I can't talk about. You've got one of those you can't talk about.
Oh, I have. I have. So, I mean, it's a lovely one. It's yeah. Lovely. But yeah, speaking of things we can't talk about or not speaking of, but can we flip it on its head? What are things we can talk about? Is there some news or stuff to report? What's going on?
I just more of the same when it comes to budgets and councils and grants getting cut. There's good news, there's bad news. I think the fallout from the budget will be explained by people. It's not good. We're not. It's interesting because what we're going to talk about in a little while, because of tax relief for film companies and theatre companies and putting on new plays, it's going to be hit very badly. Investment is, it's going to fall away, which is sad, and people are going to lose jobs. So that's maybe a discussion for future when we know more about the figures and that. But that's a little bit of a bit of bad news, a little bit of bad news, and we always talk about celebrities and people that have passed away. A few days ago, a writer whose importance cannot be overdone, Edward Bond, who he leaves an amazing legacy, but an amazing feeling behind. He wrote plays such as Saved, the War Trilogy, The Pope, and dozens and dozens and dozens. He leaves a catalogue of 50 plays, and all of which his plays, like The Sea, they were plays that I did when I was at drama school. He wrote Saved in 1965, and then it appeared at the Royal Court. And I just wanted to read the names of the people that were in this play, because it changed. It was influential in changing the British censorship laws in British theatre. Up until that time, there was a blue pencil. At any time, somebody could say, no, you can't do that. You've got to cut that, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And he pushed and pushed and pushed not only the boundaries, but also what theatre could and should say. And Saved was an incredible production. People will remember the stoning of the baby's pram scene. It's more than that. He was a playwright that cared intrinsically about people and society, and his plays, they were hard hitting and they were difficult to watch. But if you watch them and if you listen to what he was saying, he more than anything opened the book on British society and the people that needed help. But in the production, 1965 Royal Court, the production featured Mark Wingott, Peter Hugo Daly, Leslie Manville, Adrian Dunbar, and Gary Oldman. Huge young actors in their 20s, producing an amazing people younger than that. Also, I have to say, there was another actor in that called Pete Lovestrom that I've had the pleasure of working with a couple of times recently. I knew he'd had an illustrious career. I knew he had come from amazing work and very experimental work. But I read that cast this morning and I went, bloody hell.
Jesus.
But Edward Bond was an amazing playwright. He did the Pope's, I say that he did Save the Sea, Pope's Wedding, the War trilogy. It was interesting because he got behind youth theatre and the youth theatre movement in the country, because a school's production of one of the plays from the War trilogy.
Yeah,
and he saw it. How I don't know. He saw it becoming. And he said, and his reaction was, because it was they did it with so much enthusiasm, so much grit, and purity. There was no politics involved. They just did the play as he wrote it. And he said, even the RSC couldn't have done this production. They haven't got the facility to do what these kids did.
Oh, how amazing.
And from then onwards, he was a great advocate for youth theatre and investment into young actors and into new plays. Obviously, his big bag was new plays. So that was a sad loss. He passed away at 89. And I did a production of The Sea at drama school, and in that there's a dead body lies on the front of the stage around for an hour. First act, the action. And I said his plays had an effect on me as a young actor. They really did, but particularly in that production, because I was the acting ASM, and I laid asleep. I laid on the stage at the front of the stage during the show, and I fell asleep. And at the end of the act, the curtain came down, and one of the other actors come on and had to kick me to wake me up. I went, "Go, Andrew, wake up!" You see. So I fell asleep in an Edward Bond play. On stage, so there you go.
It's nice to know, mate.
Forgive me, Mr. Bond, but I was very tired.
It's nice to know that your training wasn't wasted, and that you
wasn't wasted, mate. I can always get my head down to the first act of a play, But from
very sad. Thank you to Mr. Bond for all he did.
An amazing player, amazing. And then from one end of the spectrum, one could say, to another, and to another brilliant man for quite another. This man, Tony Green, many people will know him as a great sports commentator. Yes. Yeah, there you go.
I realised I hadn't heard of this, but
Yeah, it was only a couple of days ago.
Well,
he was,
I suppose.
And he, along with the late great Mr. Bowen, made darts popular. But it could be said that Tony Green was one of the probably celebrity sports commentators on darts. He popularized, along with Bullseye, he popularized the sport. It probably wouldn't have been where it is today without his input and his enthusiasm. But also, he was just a bloody nice man. You hear stories about him, and I read a little bit.
Has a bad word to say about him ever.
No,
and a proper entertainer, albeit most people's exposure to him was very minimal because of Bullseye and just the little bits of interaction, obviously, with Jim Bowen, but just a very, very talented and charismatic man.
I mean, it's difficult to make. I mean, we talk about one of my favourite commentators, and one of yours, I'm sure, was John Motson, footballer, Motty. He could turn a boring Saturday afternoon, game into something, into an international epic.
Yeah.
And Tony Green made two men lobbing 3 darts at a dartboard into a special sport. yeah, that's that. As you say, that's a particular talent.
Yeah,
Particular talent.
absolutely. Now I'm going to go against the grain, mate. I'm going to add one, which
Oh, oh,
it's
good.
obviously you're the expert when it comes to news, and you often do our obituaries, for want of a better word. But there was someone I wanted to mention, and it's a name that I would say probably a lot of people don't know unless you are hugely into theatre, and in particular Broadway theatre. Now, Linda Balgord is the name of the lady who passed away. At no age really, she was 64, not very old,
Wow.
but she was an incredible performer, actress and singer. Her most notable role was Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard, and actually, she was Andrew Lloyd Webber's personal choice. He cast her personally, having had
Wow.
her in productions of Cats. She was also Queen Elizabeth. So she was the final, I think, the final Grisabella in the original Broadway run of Cats. So obviously an enormous role, extremely important role. She was also Madame Giry in Phantom of the Opera, and that was touring and on Broadway. And she played Queen Elizabeth I in The Pirate Queen on Broadway. But she was just an
Wow.
unbelievable performer. I mean, those names, Norma Desmond, Madame Giry, Grisabella, just enormous, enormous roles. But just, yeah, a very, very talented lady. Again, taken too soon. So, shall we raise a glass to all three very different ends of the spectrum, from writing to performing to entertaining, but equally all hugely important in their fields and
Very much
probably
so.
much missed. So, cheers to all of them.
Cheers to them.
But so should we dive into what we actually
Yes.
had
Looking
planned?
forward to this.
This is an interesting one, and it's something that we sort of touched on many seasons back. But in particular, we're doing it today because today, as you're listening, if you're listening on the day this episode is released, it is Sunday the 10th. Yeah, Sunday the 10th. And it just so happens that tonight, if you're listening on Sunday the 10th, is the Oscars ceremony, the 96th Academy Awards. So we thought we'd talk a bit about Oscars and awards. We have done before previously, but we thought today would be quite poignant because at time of recording and at time of release, we don't know who's won them.
Not
But
a clue.
but we're very close to it happening. So we could sort of make some predictions and discuss the nominations and go into things like that. And this, my friend, is where I hand back over to you because I know this is a particular subject of interest for you. So I'm sure you've done a lot of preparation and you're going to tell me all about the nominees and what's going on in the Academy Awards.
Well, I have done, and here I don't have an envelope in front of me, but I have lots of pieces of paper. There we go, in front of me. Simply because it's a long list, and you know I've got lines to learn, but not nominees. But it's very interesting because, as so often happens, one or two films have dominated conversation, but not necessarily the nominations, which is interesting. I mean, there are there are obviously the ones that we know. I mean, Oppenheimer obviously took a great chunk of Golden Globes, a great chunk of BAFTAs, and is nominated for a great chunk of Oscars. Obviously, Cillian Murphy, he won the BAFTA and a Golden Globe, is also nominated, along with Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, who won a Golden Globe for a male performance, because they have different categories for the Golden Globes.
Yes.
My prediction is that Cillian Murphy will probably win an Oscar. I feel as Bradley Cooper for Maestro has been nominated, and I think it was an absolutely extraordinary and beautiful performance. For certain political reasons, people have backed off a little bit. The Academy haven't. They've gone, no, it's a wonderful performance. And he's been nominated for an actor's job, I think, rather than any political, correctness.
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, there's some great actors. Paul Giamatti, Cillian Murphy are probably the favourites. Bradley Cooper, I would love to see get it. He won't. He might, because it's American, and they might back off of a British actor getting all three, doing the triple. But so yeah, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction as well, which was a great performance. Actor in a supporting role, I would love Robert Downey Jr. to get all three for his performance in Oppenheimer. He's one of my favorite actors. I loved his story of him and the difficulties he's had, and actually coming back and probably one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood, and worth every bloody cent. I think
Stunning actor, and as you say, like his background and his sort of the roller coaster ride that is his life. It's crazy the things he went through, the recovery he had to go through, and then to rise and become Iron Man, which is pretty much what catapulted him back into
absolutely.
super limelight, should we say? And he's just gone from strength to strength from there as well. And yeah, my tip would be him for best.
I think so. I mean, is in that category as well as he has been in other awards is Robert De Niro for Killers of a Flower Moon. I mean, again, a wonderful film, and it's like you can never rule him out.
I wonder if Killers of the Flower Moon is the sort of the dark horse here and will actually take more, because it's been nominated in quite a few categories, hasn't it? So
yes, it has.
I
Yeah.
wonder if it might take more than people expect. Do we have to deal with the pink elephant in the room and the fact that
Well,
yet again the highest grossing film of 2023 has not really got as many nominations as perhaps people might expect?
yeah. Ryan Gosling's there for supporting actor,
Yeah.
or actor in a supporting role. So I mean,
I'll be
Ken
honest,
might
I
come
can't
out.
see it. I don't. I
Neither
don't.
can I.
But
Bless.
I'm not saying it wasn't an incredible performance, but I'm just not sure that that's the way the Academy will go. But who knows?
They've gone very there. I mean, there are some films here with very heavy films, very, and it's a shame that it's a light, fluffy. I think a very clever film the way it's made. I think it was a very clever film, and a lot of respect to. I mean, America Ferrara was I think she's up for a supporting role. She's an Oscar nomination, so I think there are performances. I mean, I think she's another great actor, but in that category, she's up against Daniela Brooks for The Color Purple, Jodie Foster for Naiad, and Davine Joy for The Holdovers, who has won the BAFTA. So
I mean,
you've got to kind of go.
I
I
mean,
don't think,
obviously, it's always star-studded because that's the premise. But
of
what a
course.
list of people!
I know, I know. I mean, I've just been going through these lists, just looking, going, oh my god. I mean, I look Emma Stone, who won the BAFTA and the Golden Globe for Poor Things, and I looked and went, "Oh my goodness me!" Annette Bening is nominated for best. It's like,
Yeah,
and Kerry Mulligan for Maestro. It's like, what a shame that they probably won't get it because Poor Things, because of you
yeah.
know, its roller coaster and what people have said about it. Again, I don't think
I'll,
it's an
I'll
interesting movie. It looks stunning, but it's won awards for different things. I mean, mainly production and costume and makeup. It took BAFTAs for that and Golden
yeah.
Globes for that.
Um,
So
at risk of flogging a dead pink horse, are we shocked that Margot Robbie's not in the running? Because she's not down for best actress in a leading role.
I am shocked. I am shocked, and I'm shocked not only because it's a performance, but also, I mean, she produced that movie. It made a shed load of money, and the industry needs at this moment in time, the film industry, it needs money. It needs an injection of money and talent and cash. And to not to be, I mean, maybe she should have been nominated for producer or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think she should have at least got a nomination, a nod towards all the hard work that it went
Yeah,
to make that movie,
yeah.
and all the hard cash it's made.
Well, yeah, and we know that the academy is an interesting place, and we'd be naive to suggest that politics don't play a part, and
Of course.
goes far beyond just a simple who is the best person that did their job as an actor. Um, we could speculate and we could say all sorts of different things, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think being realistic, Oppenheimer's going to take a lot.
Oh
I
yes.
can't see it not. So just to and we're going to move into something which you don't know I'm about to do, but I've done a bit of
Oh
research as well, obviously.
oh
But I've got a couple of sort of not quiz questions, but a little bit of trivia for you that you might find and people might find interesting. So
okay.
as you said, Oppenheimer took a fair few BAFTAs. It took six, I believe, having been
Hmm.
nominated for 13. Um, so I guess you could argue, well, when you've got that many nominations, you're bound to win a fair few. But on that subject,
Okay.
it has also received 13 Oscar nominations. Now, I'm not going to list them all, and for the life of me, I can't remember. I did look at this earlier, but I believe if you are nominated in every single category that you can be as a full feature movie like this, I think the maximum is 14 nominations that you can have. Um,
Okay.
because obviously then you've got things like best song, best sound, best makeup, best costume, um, lead actor, supporting actor, lead actress, supporting actress, blah blah blah, lots and lots of others. Then there are things like obviously there's documentaries, there's animation, there's so I think in theory the maximum you can be nominated for is 14
For a feature film.
for a feature film.
Right.
Which was the last one to be nominated for all 14? Last film. I say last film, possibly only actually. Any ideas?
Um, Now it might have changed over the years, so I'm going to go for something modern.
Go on.
All 14. Christ.
Yeah. I mean, so it was nominated for 14 Oscars, which at the time was maximum. It may
Was
have
the
changed,
most you could okay.
but
Um,
I'm sure it is still 14 now. So
right.
would it?
I
Would
mean
it go on?
there's the obvious, which would be I'm going to say something like Gone with the Wind.
No, not the one that I've got on my list. I can tell you, of the 14, it won 11. Does that make it any easier? Which is the joint most wins with two other movies for a single
So
film.
is it Lord of the Rings?
Right, so Lord of the Rings, I'll give you sort of half a point. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King was indeed nominated for 11. Sorry, it won 11 Oscars, and it was nominated for 11 Oscars. So Lord of the Rings
It,
won every single
wow.
category it was nominated in. There are
Okay.
two other films that have won 11 Oscars, which is the record. Ben-Hur, 1959, won 11 of its 12 nominations.
Wow.
And in 1997, does that give it away? It won 11 Oscars out of 14. Titanic.
Oh, of
There we go.
course.
So there you go. A little bit of trivia there for you.
Of
So
course.
if Oppenheimer wins every Oscar it's nominated for, I'll be honest, I very much doubt it. But it would be the most ever. If it gets 12, it'll also be the most ever. If it gets 11, it'll be joint with Ben-Hur, Titanic, and Lord of the Rings. If it wins 13, it'll be the most wins for every nomination, which is currently held by Lord of the Rings, 11 and 11. But yeah, it's fascinating when you look back over the history of the Oscars and stuff. So, for example, do you know who has won the most Oscars as a person, as in either leading or supporting?
I don't actually know.
Female, nominated for 12 and won.
Right.
Want to hazard a guess?
No,
I'll put you out your misery, mate. Catherine Hepburn. She was
ah,
the single person with the most Oscar wins. As I said, she was nominated for 12 and has four Oscar wins. Then there are three men with three wins. Any ideas on any of those, or shall I give them to you straight away? What do you think?
I'm going to go for De Niro, Al Pacino.
I can see where you're going with it. Interestingly, neither of them.
Okay.
So the men with three Oscars: Walter Brennan, uh,
Wow.
Jack Nicholson,
Ah, that
and
was
Daniel Day-Lewis. And he has a particular record or accolade, I suppose. He is the only one to win three, all for leading actor. So both Jack Nicholson and Walter Brennan, and equally Katharine Hepburn, and another high earning or award winning actress, Meryl Streep, also has three Oscars to her name. All of them have supporting as well as leading. Daniel
leading.
Day-Lewis, who interestingly is the highest British actor as well, with Oscars. Yeah, all three of his were for leading male.
Leads.
Yeah, so stunning. Meryl Streep, interestingly, the most nominated single person. 21 Oscar nominations, as said, three wins. Obviously, the majority of those are for leading actress, a few supporting
Yeah.
as well. And then a couple of other mentions, just because I found them quite interesting. The most Oscar winning British person, not necessarily actor, is John Barry, the composer, with five Oscars. Um,
What are those for Bond, I would imagine.
I think he was, yeah, I believe so. Um,
Mm.
and then the final fascinating fact slash piece of trivia for you. Could you name, and it's not a trick question because it is absolutely true, but can you think of a person who might have more Oscars than anyone else, and by far more than anyone else? In fact, this person has 26 Oscars. 26. I have to say, four of them were honorary Oscars, not sort of like competitive ones, if that makes sense. And this
Yeah.
person also has been nominated to date 59 times for Oscars. Can you think who it might be?
I'm gonna I'm gonna say Burt Bacharach.
It's not Burt Bacharach. I like where you're going because you're thinking from a musical point of view. You can have
Songs, musicals, yeah.
so this person wasn't specifically involved in music, but more is probably one of the most famous names in the world. Does that give any more clues as to why? And don't think about their individual talents. Think about what their name might represent. And despite long ago passing away, we're talking about a certain Walt Disney.
Ah, of course.
There you go. So yeah, Walt
Oh,
Disney, 59 to date nominations, 26 Oscars. So and understandably so. I mean, when you're releasing
yeah.
the amount of movies over a career that he did, and involved in them in such a way, of course, you're going to have a lot of wins. But there you go. So that's my little bit of trivia for you today, mate. A few
Brilliant.
facts in there. Who knows? Next time we speak, could we be adding someone like Cillian Murphy to that list of high winning award personas, or will Oppenheimer hold the record? Will it win 11 or more Oscars? Again, I'm going to say I don't think so. I have a feeling
I don't think it's that good a movie. Good film, but is it that good a movie?
is it up there with
Yeah.
Ben-Hur, Titanic, Lord of the Rings? So, for example, I believe Titanic and Lord of the Rings are both up in at least the top 20, if not top 10 of all time on IMDb. Now, IMDb isn't sort of like a proper yardstick, so to speak, because at the end of the day, it's a critique, isn't it? So
Mm.
someone's
Yeah.
opinion could be completely different. We've had discussions, not on here, but numerous times about Lord of the Rings, and I think the first one's the best one, and the other two aren't quite as good. Whereas I know you are such a huge fan that you love all of them, and
I love all three, but I hate The Hobbit. So there you go.
exactly that. But and equally, and we're not going to go into this now because we'll be here all day. But I stand by the fact that I believe the only ever perfect trilogy is the Back to the Future trilogy, because I believe all three films are equally as good as one another, which for me makes it the perfect trilogy. But others will argue Lord of the Rings is. I don't think the Two Towers is as good as the first and the third, but you would probably
Mm.
disagree. Equally, others will say the original Star Wars trilogy is the perfect trilogy. You haven't even bloody seen them. So at the end of the day, film is critical choice. You can like something that someone else absolutely detests, and vice versa. So something like IMDb isn't sort of a cut and shut version of this is the best, this isn't. But
Yeah.
because it's so widely cast and so many people have had to vote to get the ratings, it's not a bad sort of
It's
indicator.
not a bad yardstick. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure Lord of the Rings: Return of the King is around seventh of all time of all films,
Oh,
which is insane. Titanic's definitely up in sort of the top 2015, I think, something like that. I
yeah.
can't tell you about Ben-Hur off the top of my head, but I believe that Oppenheimer is somewhere around the 80s at the moment. Now, bearing in mind, it has only been out a little while, so it could well change, but I can't see it growing right up there. Just for the record, number one is Shawshank Redemption, I believe, isn't it? It's the number one film of all
I
time
believe
on
it is.
IMDb.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know anyone that doesn't like that film. I've never met anyone that said no, it wasn't very good.
No, it's amazing.
Some people
It's
said it's long, which it is, but it's still an incredible movie. But yeah, so there you go. Who knows? As of in a few hours' time, we'll know how well
yeah.
has done and whether Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. and all the rest have sort of taken it upon themselves to set new records. I for one, wish them all the best. I mean, but I
I'm
don't believe
I'm with you.
to do that.
I'm with you. I think, I mean, again, we often say, what is the point of these awards? Well, there are some people who make, and it is very much within the industry. It's very much in the club. It's not earth shattering. Does an Oscar make you go out and spend your money on a good film, or does someone saying, I saw so and so the other day, it's bloody brilliant? I tend to go word of mouth and occasionally the critics. Whether someone in it has won an Oscar or not, it doesn't really bother me, because that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be any better than an unknown that steps into a film, and that's been proved in the past.
Of course,
But
but if you were to win one, I think you'd be pretty chuffed.
oh, mate, I'd polish it. Oh yes, oh yes.
Wow. Okay, so we're ending with Drew polishing a little man. That what more could you possibly want? But no, genuinely, all the very best to all the
Yeah,
nominees.
yeah,
Not
absolutely.
everyone can win, which is sad. If you've been nominated, you are much deserving of it, and it's an honour in itself to be at that level, I'm sure. Who knows? Maybe we'll be up there one day. Who knows? I mean, you
Who
won't be
knows,
up
mate? Who
anyway. You might
knows?
because you'll. Yeah, but you know what I mean.
I'm going to do a terrible, terrible thing, and I'm going to name drop here.
Go on.
Um, I might have said this once before, but I had the privilege of meeting the late great Jack Wilde,
Yes.
and we had Claire on it a while ago,
Yeah, it's
who
right.
was married to Jack, and I was once invited over to have tea with him one afternoon. We'd been Claire and I'd been working together, and I went upstairs to go to the loo, and then just hanging outside the loo was Jack's Oscar nomination.
Right.
And it was so sort of, it's up there with holiday photographs and stuff like that. There was nothing, it was just hanging there, and I just sort of walked past and went, oh my God, there's an Oscar nomination. It's not an Oscar, but it'll do me. So yeah, little name drop to the late wonderful Jack Wilde. But that moment of passing his Oscar nomination was quite like, oh shit. Oh, that looks good, doesn't it? Yeah.
What a claim to fame. But I mean,
There you go.
just yeah. It's an intriguing world to be part of. The politics go without saying, but actually, if you win an Oscar, you've got to be damn good, or to be nominated, you've got to be damn
Yeah.
good. Like,
Yeah. You have.
forget
You
all
have.
that stuff. Forget all that bollocks and shit and nattering and gossip and whatever. If you're up in those names, then
And
amazing.
there's nothing better than seeing a good actor in a good production of anything,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then if they happen to win an award, well, so what? It's no skin off my nose. It's not going to make my career any less or any more important. So good luck, as you say, good luck to them.
Exactly. And don't worry, mate. When I win one, I'll mention you in the speech.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I'll
There's
even
a bit of
model your
confidence
Oscar.
there.
You can have a little Drew instead of an Oscar. You can have a little Drew. There you go.
Oh, that would be incredible, wouldn't it?
Spray me gold and stand me on a little wooden plinth. Yeah, there you go.
And on that note,
On
we'll
that
be
note,
back. We'll be back next week with another fabulous guest. Very much looking forward to this person. But for now, enjoy the Oscars later if you're watching them. If you don't. See you next
And
time.
if you've already seen them, well, means nothing to you. So,
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.